Hi, this is Tucker with your SAT vocabulary list number 30. Please take Cornell notes, write down the word, the part of speech, the definition, and any examples that I say or that you think of that will help you to remember these words. The first word is allegory, and allegory is defined as presenting a subject under the guise, or I wrote in there, disguise of another subject. So oftentimes a writer or maybe someone creating a film will represent an abstract, sometimes a spiritual or political meaning through a more concrete or material form. So they present a subject, but what they're actually talking about is something very different. A really great example of an allegory, one that many students read in high school, is Animal Farm. And Animal Farm is a book that is written about an actual farm with actual animals, yet it is a political allegory. It's making a political statement by kind of using these farm animals. So ironically, some students read Animal Farm when they're in like 8th grade, but at that point they don't really understand the deeper political meaning. So that allegory uses the subject of the farmhouse and the animals as a guise or a disguise that covers kind of very subtly this deeper meaning about politics. So oftentimes when we're reading, we may stumble upon an allegory that is in the text where the author on the surface is talking about one thing, but under the surface is actually talking about something very different. Sometimes fables are used as synonyms for allegories because fables often have a much deeper meaning than what's at the surface. 2 is aversion. Aversion is a noun, and it's a mental condition of fixed opposition, which means mentally you do not like whatever this is. If you have an aversion to something, you do not like it, you are opposed to it, you don't want to be exposed to it. So some people have an aversion, myself included, to blood. So when I see it, it kind of makes me faint and uncomfortable. So I have a mental condition that is kind of fixed in opposition to seeing any blood or gore. Other people have aversions to things like war. And so you'll see kind of political statements maybe in graffiti about topics that people have aversions to. And you might hear the verb form of this word, which is to avert. And to avert means to turn away. So you might avert your eyes if there's, someone has a bloody nose, if you have an aversion to blood like I do. Number three is decipher. And decipher is a verb, and it means to figure out or find out if something is true or to figure out the truth of words or the meaning of something. I think of decipher and I think of making sense of something. So if I'm trying to decipher something, I'm trying to make sense of it. And so this definition it says to find out the true words or meaning of, but just to figure something out. So think of decipher as to figure something out or to make sense of something. Maybe when you think about solving a puzzle, you're trying to decipher, okay, where do the letters go? And you have to kind of understand what you're being asked in order to figure that out. 4 is impede. It's a verb and it means to be an obstacle or to place obstacles. So if you have, if something kind of impedes your progress, it means it slows you down because you have these obstacles you have to get over or around in order to move forward. Whether that's, it's physically impeding you or whether you have something that's kind of mentally causing you to struggle to move forward. So impede is just, if there's obstacles in your way that kind of cause you to have trouble getting from point A to point B, whether that's physical movement, mental, emotional movement. Sometimes when I'm in my car in the parking lot trying to get out of school, my progress is impeded because everybody else is also trying to get out of school. So we're all kind of lining up and trying to get out of the parking lot at one time. The fifth word is inception, and inception is a noun. It means the beginning or the start or the commencement. And a lot of students, when they hear inception, they probably think of the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, and that's because in science fiction, inception actually means the act of instilling an idea in one's mind by entering his or her sleep or her dreams. So it's interesting. Inception itself means the beginning or start, but the sci-fi definition is slightly different. That whole idea of, planting an idea in someone's mind through their dreams, which is interesting. But if you think of it that way, then that idea, it's maybe just it's planting it, it's the start of that idea. So if you're making that mental connection to the movie Inception, maybe that will help you to kind of remember that if someone's planting an idea in your mind, that idea has to kind of take root there and begin in that moment when it's planted. Otherwise, just try to remember that Inception means the start or the beginning. And so when I'm thinking about Inception, like thinking about the beginning of like the universe, like how did it start? When, what caused it to be created? Those are the questions I have about the inception of our universe. 6 is intercede. It's a verb. So when you intercede, you go between or come between two different people or groups of people with the hope of mediating, which means to kind of help them reconcile some difference they have, to help them work out some disagreement perhaps that they're having. It comes from the Latin prefix inter means between or among, and then the Latin root cede means to yield or to surrender. So if you're kind of coming between people to help them both maybe yield so that they can reach an agreement, then you're interceding. Oftentimes, I have a sister. I have to intercede on her behalf. So if she's having frustrations with our parents or they're not getting along, sometimes I'll get on my phone and I'll call my mom and I'll try to intercede. I'll try to kind of come in between whatever the problem, like their argument is or their challenge, and try to be a little bit of a peacekeeper in that situation because I want them to reach kind of a point of understanding. 7 is meander, and this is a verb, and it means to wind and turn while proceeding in a course. Really, what it means is if you're walking and you're just kind of lazily going along, just taking your time, maybe, not walking in a straight path from here to there, just like looking around you and soaking up the beauty of the path around you, you're meandering. And sometimes when I see my students coming to class and the bell's about to ring, I wonder why they are meandering instead of running to my classroom. Because meander definitely has connotations of being relaxed and taking your time and just really mellow. Whereas, when you're late to class, I think of students kind of hustling to get there on time, which sometimes does not happen. But if you are out at Foothill Park near the school and you're just taking a walk with a friend, then you'd probably be meandering. You wouldn't be trying to like race from point A to point B. 8 is opulent, and this describes something that has great wealth. So opulence is another form of this word, the noun form of this word, and that is the actual wealth itself. So if you're describing something that looks really expensive, really, really wealthy, then you would describe it as opulent. So oftentimes when I'm traveling in Europe, there's so much history in Europe, and some European countries have a lot of wealthy history, and so they have these buildings with just like gilded wall framings and paintings and frescoes, and just really opulent, the wealth that are in some of these beautiful, beautiful buildings. 9 is radiance. It's a noun, and it means brilliant or sparkling luster. You might also hear the word radiant, which describes someone who is glowing or sparkling. And so just thinking of kind of that giving off of good energy, that light that's kind of radiates off people who are, happy and healthy. That's how I think of radiance, really. I was just at Disneyland for the very first time with my husband and my 2 kids, and it was incredible. The entire castle was lit up, and I definitely was taken aback by how the radiance, how radiant it really was. 10 is robust. This describes something that has great strength or power of endurance. So something that's really robust just kind of keeps going and has a lot of energy behind it. Sometimes, and this word is used really flexibly. So, a person could be maybe described as robust. A really strong energy drink might be described as robust. A really like a program that's designed really well is a very strong program might be described as robust as well. So it's a really flexible, whether you're talking about like the human body or a person, or whether you're talking about something that has been designed in a way that it has great endurance and strength for whatever that particular thing is. 11 is stealth. Stealth is a noun. Stealth is a noun, and it means to do. It's a concealed manner of acting. And we talked about the word stealthy, I believe, or stealthily in a previous SAT vocabulary list. But this is just the concealed manner of acting. So if you do something in stealth, you're really doing it in a very secretive, almost like you're trying to hide what you're doing. So you get kind of this impression that someone who does something in stealth doesn't want to be seen. They want to do something without others realizing that they're doing it. They're being kind of, maybe even it describes someone who's being kind of underhanded about something. So you think about someone with like binoculars, kind of in this grayed out background. Why do people have binoculars? Some people love to bird watch. Other people are trying to do things in stealth, trying to see things that are far, far away. So just thinking about someone who's doing something in this way that's kind of sneaky or quiet, or kind of with the intention of being hidden. 12 is tentative, and this describes someone or something that is unsure. They're hesitant. They're not positive about maybe the decision that they're making or what they're doing. Now, right now we're doing our core final presentations, and some students walk up there and they are confident, they are rehearsed, they're ready. Other students are more tentative. It's clear that they're either they're nervous about presenting in front of the group, or they haven't done a lot of rehearsing, and so they're a little nervous about standing up and giving their talk. So they're more tentative. They're a little unsure. They're a little bit more hesitant. As finals kind of comes, we're only a few weeks away. Students might also be feeling a little tentative about taking finals in certain classes and how they're going to do on those finals. 13 is veracious, and this describes someone who is habitually, which just means by habit, habitually disposed to speak the truth. So if someone is just very honest, they tell the truth all the time, they would be described as veracious. And often little kids are veracious just by nature, because when they're really young, they don't even know like how to lie, really. It's kind of an art form that surfaces by the time they end up being, 5, 6, 7 for some kids. But when they're really little, they just say whatever they're thinking. And as a parent, some of those moments with kids are hysterical. So when I was getting ready for Halloween this year, and I told my daughter that I was going to be a flower child, she told me that it was unfortunate that I wasn't going to be a witch because my nose is so long. And I was just laughing because she is so voracious. She doesn't even realize that maybe telling your mom that her nose looks like a witch's nose is not a great compliment. But she's little, she's still young, and so I expect that kind of raw, honest truth from her. 14 is reciprocal. And reciprocal comes from the Latin word meaning return or returning. And this describes anything that is given or felt by two parties or two people. So if it's felt or given by two two individuals toward each other. So it's a mutual kind of feeling or a mutual something. Like you can respect someone. So if you have, mutual respect for someone, that those feelings are reciprocal. You both feel it for each other. In relationships, romantic relationships, the feelings of romance or passion are reciprocal. Often when you are working with someone who you really respect, you have a lot of synergy with, those feelings tend to be kind of reciprocal, where you're both feeling that. That's why the relationship, the work relationship, is so positive and so productive. I definitely feel that way for a lot of the people that I work with, that, we kind of feed off of each other and we have this kind of reciprocal admiration and respect for each other and learn a lot from each other, which is a great feeling. 15 is plethora, and this is a word I use all the time in my class, so I'm sure you guys have heard it. It's a noun, and it means the overabundance of something, an excess of something. So if you have more than enough of something, you have a plethora. And so in the back of the room, sometimes kids will say, "Oh, I don't have any paper." And I say, "I have a plethora of paper," right? It's all in the back of the room, an enormous stack of paper, because I have an overabundance. I have an excess amount of it. For Thanksgiving, which we just had, we had a plethora. There's just like so much food and so much turkey in particular. I don't eat meat, so there was tons of turkey left over at my family's house. There was just a plethora of food in the refrigerator the next day.